Awesome. Welcome, guys, to another video. Today, I have a very special guest. Well, I'm the guest also, but I have the internal game here with me, which I'm extremely excited to talk with. And internal game, I mean, I know most of you already know him, but internal game, if you want to share, what it is that you do, how you came into manifesting, please, I'm really excited about this.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Bradley. I run a YouTube channel called The Internal Game. I found out about like manifesting and stuff, I guess a long time ago with uh, like law of attraction, I guess a long time ago. And that kind of bummed me out towards the end. And then I got lucky enough to find Neville Goddard with it during like a breakup, and started my journey with that. And then things start to click later on. Uh, and then I decided to do my own show or my own channel, man. Pretty much like keep it simple.
That's so awesome, bro. Yeah, that's so cool. I think most of us find, law of assumption through a separation. It's how I too found law of assumption, and it obviously changed my life, and it's now the center part of my life. A topic that I'd really like to ask you about, because you talk about this in so many of your videos, and I absolutely love this, and this is something that I love also is flow. Can you share how is it that you enter the flow? A lot of people find it hard to understand because it's the absence of thought that really puts you into flow. How is it that you found how to reach the flow for yourself?
Um, Probably just getting into like a contact with what I actually am.
Mm,
We're all God consciousness and the I am and things like that. But when we're lost in mind all the time, like we're identified with thought, and we think that thought is who we are. And anytime we
yeah.
think that thought is who we are, then we have like this identity based in the past of like things they've experienced, and then we have like this future, like Ekhart Tolle calls it, like the promise of salvation in the future. So like
Mm,
we're constantly, and then of course we're going to feel incomplete because this whole identity is incomplete. It's based around some type of, a lot of times even pain and trauma, things like that. And then of course like the promise of no more pain and trauma in the future, which is all illusion. And so like we're caught in the mind all the time, believing these thoughts and believing things about self. And then anytime this is going to happen, we're going to try to manipulate, try to, you know, make sure that we get what we want, do things, out of fear and just pretty much desperation, things like that. And so even if it's a favorable identity, like it comes with the fear of being threatened. So I think that when I started to do things like just a thought, started to disidentify a little bit more with I guess thought pattern and mind stuff in general, I was able to feel the I am kind of within, because I think I agree with Eckhart, and like even like in the Tao Te Ching, where he says like the eternal Tao, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. So
mm,
like because the mind can't explain it, the mind doesn't know what it is. You know, and this Tao, this God consciousness doesn't need thought. You know,
right.
thought needs it, to exist. So like when you start to get away from thought a little bit, you're going to feel that a lot more within, and then you realize that I'm pretty sure I've talked about this quite a bit, but you realize that you have been being lived, by this God, by this Tao, that you are it.
Mm,
And so at that point, like, all of your organs have been working this whole time without you thinking about them. Everyone else's organs have been working this whole time without them without me thinking about them. The sun, the grass, like everything's just been going. It's being lived by this Tao, and you feel connected with that, and then you put a little bit more trust and flow,
mm.
because again, mine's going to try to, well, it's going to try to figure it out, but really it sabotages it more than it does anything. So like again, nothing wrong with wanting your person or money or things like that. Those things are for sure yours the second that you say it's done. But at that point, once you say it's done, the best thing that you can do is to start to disidentify with how you've been being that created all these scenarios.
So true. Yeah. And it brings me back that I remember Neville hearing back in the day, you are who it is that you desire to be. And the only reason why you don't see it is the refusal to believe it. And so
Yeah.
I thought, man, what a mind screw that concept is. How could I be it? I don't see it. Right. And so for a very long time, it's like the same exact idea as you are not your thoughts, you're the awareness. To the mind, it goes, that doesn't make any sense. And it's funny. I was having a live today, and this was the concept that I kept talking about is that the mind will deceive you into thinking that there is a problem. There's something for you to figure out. But the funny thing is, the exact same that is causing these illusions of separation into reality is that very thought that there is in fact even a problem to figure out. That there is no problem that exists unless you entertain first that there is a problem that exists. And so that's really like the freeing part is that you are everything that you desire to be, except for in those situations where you tell yourself there's something you need to do in order to get it, or that there is this separation, or that there is this, well, maybe if I just earn it enough, maybe if I do enough techniques, maybe if I sit in meditation all day long, maybe if I do all these things, I'll somehow earn this thing when it's just simply, I found for me that the best way that I manifest and I manifest now bigger things that used to, the identity before couldn't accept as possibilities because when I'm manifesting from the identity, I have this, well, Joseph makes $40,000 a year is the most he's ever made. So when I started imagining 80, that identity couldn't accept that. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount. When I'm in flow, which is really, as Joseph Rodriguez so beautifully articulates it, it is the realization that this whole thing is God, experiencing God.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
80,000 isn't, what is that? It's simply an experience. It's not a big thing. It's simply just an experience that you're having while being in flow. So what is, since you've made this a priority, what does your reality look like? Because like I know for me, I manifested continuously. The first time I manifested my wife back, I was obsessing. I was losing sleep over it. I was emotional turmoil, ups and downs. I ultimately ended up succeeding, but it was not very enjoyable. Now it's so much more flow based, and all the things I used to work so hard for just happen automatically, and wonderful things are added on to me continuously. What was your experience like when you started versus now, or manifestation for you better now than it used to be? Or
Oh,
what
is
does
it?
it look like?
Yo, hell yeah! Because yeah, because back then, like I just was scared.
Yeah.
Like, I tell people a lot when they say, "What have you manifested?" They're like, "We see the pool. What else you got? Talk to us." And I'm just like, "Bam!" Like me not being scared like that is the coolest manifestation I've ever had in my life.
Mm,
Like it is because like I spent my whole life like that. So it was like, um, I was scared of something. You know what I mean? Rather be like success, not success. Uh, I mean, you name it. I was scared. Scared of having it. Scared of losing it. Scared of keeping it. Scared of yeah. What? No matter what, there was fear running in my life.
mm,
And again, it's kind of like with the. I'll probably bring up Eckhart Tolle a lot. Like I talk like that's my guy. I could just give that dude a
yeah.
hug. I promise. But he
Yeah.
was like he talked about like no need to explore fear's countless manifestations. Um, he's like you go right to the root. And when I first read through that book, The Power of Now,
Great book.
I remember yeah I remember thinking I'm not kidding. I remember thinking, dude, like this is good stuff. And like I believe this to be true. But maybe when I'm like 65. Because right now I want my wife and I want my money. And
Mm.
I want the Lamborghini with the on the license plate that says payback. Like I was ready. I was with my middle fingers, I was ready to have I was ready for people to finally see me, like and to hear me and things like that. So I was trying to manifest things like that. And then and I guess after enough suffering and I guess after enough suffering, you start to realize, like, okay, the actual problem is exactly what you said. That Neville said, like, your refusal to believe this is the reason it's not so, right? And what is that? Refusal to believe it. Why would you not be believing it? You're buying into thought, right? And that's instead of the exploring the countless manifestations of the wife leaving and um, the bank account not looking great and all this other stuff. Like, instead of exploring all that, you just go right to the problem, and it's believing your thought, right? And then, of course, the hard part about changing, because it was hard back then, like I was saying, is that like trying to change an identity. Me and this person were talking about this the other day. Trying to change an identity is hard with that identity. It's actually impossible. You can't change the identity. I
Yeah.
think Albert Einstein said, "You can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it." It's the same
Agreed.
type of shit. And so I was flipping thought all the time, trying to force. Like when me and my wife were split up, I remember like walking around affirming aimlessly, like doing a lot of stuff trying to force this into
Me
play.
too.
And then like when I finally said fuck it, I was like, man, like I'm tired of living like this. Like this isn't like I'm over here saying I'm a priority, but I'm not.
Mm.
I was like I'm over here saying that I'm important, but I'm not. I mean, I
Yeah.
am, but I'm not treating myself this way. I'm clearly my focus is on something else, and in a really unfavorable state of being. And so, yeah, I started to live my life, and I kind of dropped that story about all the nonsense and trying and realized it was more of a state of being game. Kind of forgave myself for some things that happened, and yeah, like what's like a week and a half or something. I think she gave me a call, and it was like all that time spent on forcing, and then around that time I also started to like stabilize in general, because I wasn't buying into thought as much. And I think that at that point you start to realize that, oh, okay. And then you see things change and you're like, oh, okay, okay, like this has nothing to do with out there. Like this has like I hear it, people say it. But like the mind, identification of mind is extremely separate from. Like it's not if but it feels as if it is. So it's like when you start to like get out of that a little bit, yeah, you see the things just drop away. And And then, of course, because you're doing things like just a thought, not really buying into thought, even if you see circumstance, that's the opposite. Like it's a lot easier to not really buy into it because you're like, okay, I'm safe. Like, and there's really nothing that can hurt me. And then
Mm,
from there, like I think that like that became easier then. But
yeah.
until then, I was just scared of thought because I thought that every thought was going to manifest.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that too. Yeah, I'm like, how do I tell the difference between the ones that I feel is real and the ones that just simply come to me, right? Like that would cause me a lot of fear too. And another thing that I used to do cause myself a lot of anguish in the appearance of my outer reality is that whenever I was having some emotion come up, I would automatically assign some negative meaning to it, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
and then it would create some negative experience in my life, and simply just going, I'm the awareness. And this is an exercise having people do today. I'm like, hey, to show you experientially, so you're not just taking, our word for it. Can your arm observe itself? Well, no, it can't because it is the arm. Can my hand observe itself? Well, no, it can't because it's the hand. The hand can't observe itself. You can observe your mind because you are not your mind. You can observe your emotions because you are not your emotions. That's why
Exactly.
you can observe them. You can separate them. And I love, this is why I'm so excited to do this with you, is because you talk a lot like Joseph Rodriguez or Ekhart Tolle, which in my opinion are some of my favorite people. And Joseph Rodriguez is always talking about the fact that like whenever a flow breaker comes up, it's always some illusionary thought that something outside of you is either problematic, separate from you in some way, shape, or form. His words are slightly different on this, but this is what is causing the appearance of the illusion that there's anything else besides love, peace, bliss, happiness, fulfillment. So, in essence, if I were to not ever consider that something unlovely, I would never experience anything unlovely. It just can't happen because this is a symbol of what I'm doing within myself. And so if I don't do anything unlovely within myself, I can't ever see the appearance of a symbol of something unlovely outside of me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It has to first
Yeah.
originate within me in some
Yeah.
way,
For
shape, or form. And when I had that, it was so liberating because it was like, well, then I can have my emotions. I can have the thought come up and observe it. And oftentimes, if I can become aware of that which is observing the fact that I have a mind, I can place my focus on that rather than the content that's being said in my mind. The thought comes up and goes on by like a cloud, as Eckhart Tolle so beautifully articulates, and it
sure.
just
Exactly.
passes by. The time that it's hard is when I kind of identify with it temporarily and it kind of puts its roots in me. It kind of grabs its claws and it starts making a little home. Then it's kind of a little bit more challenging for me to detach myself from that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm conscious and I'm aware of when this thought comes up and I can simply acknowledge it, let it flow by, it does nothing.
Yeah, because it's just a thought. Like it has no meaning whatsoever. And
Yeah.
and then when I like how you said that. And then with like it grows its roots in you. And then the meaning starts. Yeah. Then you see like I remember I learned that from Dr. Joe Dispenza. I didn't. I wish I would have learned a lot of stuff, but just like people telling me, but I didn't. I learned with like a lot more pain. I guess
Yeah.
that's I guess that's how. But anyway, he was talking about how uh, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind.
Mm,
And like I look at that as like seeing through your state of being.
mm,
Like I remember many times like viewing my wife like a lot of things that were going on that weren't going on, but I was viewing it that way. They were normal things from a fearful place, and like no matter what it was. And I remember thinking, dude, I have to get this to stop because I'm gonna create something I don't want. And because I believed in the law, I just didn't know how to stop it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was like that was the hang up. And so like I always tell people all the time, like the most important thing you can do, like for any time is to get safe, to get stable. Like not buying a thought for a second. Don't try to manifest, don't try to do whatever, just get stable. Because if you can do that, you can view things like with some sense, like with some clarity. Because if not, you're gonna view it through your state.
Yep.
And so the quickest thing is to start that like not buying a thought for a second, get stable and go from there. Because when you start assigning meaning, you'll see it in everything. Even like you say, it appears this way because you're seeing with your mind, like
Exactly.
you're not seeing with it like with just your eyes. And
Exactly.
so it's yeah, and it appears this way. Like you said, I love when you say that, it appears this way. So it's yeah, not a thing, just a thought.
Exactly. Yeah. I love how you talked about the state because this is a huge thing. And I can usually tell because, well, one, I start seeing things in a particular manner and it always is accompanied by some form of energy in the body that doesn't feel the best.
For sure.
And the next thing that I notice that happens for me is that it seems as though it's not just that particular thing, but it's everything I interact with. I have some problem with on some level or another. I'll be frustrated by this. Some very small task like taking out the trash all of a
Yeah.
sudden is very problematic and is pissing me off. And so I know in that moment, the problem is never the situation because it's like again, I really like viewing it from the perspective of it just is a simulation. In reality, it is. And when I'm in this mind state of flow, I realize this. It's not until I go into a different state where I'm like, oh no, this is showing up this way, and then the fear comes back and the reaction comes back, and that kind of brings me to another thing that I like to talk with you about is what do you think of healing? I think that healing was needed to a certain point until I realized that I was the awareness. And then from that point, I don't think healing is necessary anymore. Eckhart Tolle said this. You
Yeah.
need suffering, and suffering is illusionary, but you don't realize this until you
Yeah.
reach a certain point and you know it experientially, and then it's no longer needed. You get a choice. What
Most,
do you think on healing?
oh yeah, like yeah, Ekhart does say that. He says that suffering is necessary till you realize that it's not.
Yeah.
And like, but it's also necessary because it helps you with compassion and things like that. If you just went through your whole life and didn't have any type of, I guess, growing experiences, right? Let's use that. Then yeah, how would you be able to relate to anybody that you talk to? You wouldn't be able to. You'd be like, hey dude, fucking snap out of it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
stop, come on
Yeah.
now.
Get your
But
shit
like yeah,
together.
but like it's not, yeah, that's not how it goes. So as far as the healing thing, I think that it's a state really. And um if you got yourself into a place where you need healing, then I think that it just continues. Because really, like in my experience here, I could be one that you could say like, I've had a lot of trauma as a kid. I'm sure everyone could say this, right? Like it's the human experience is part of the game. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's all relative. So it doesn't matter even if you grew up extremely rich, like let's just say mom didn't talk to you as much, like it's relative. And the mind is going to find identity, and
Yeah.
especially in some type of pain somewhere. So it'll find some kind of pain.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, it's but if you were to forget everything that you ever went through, would you need healing?
No.
Exactly. So it only exists in the mind.
Yeah.
So at that point, like it's one of those things where you say, okay, like people say all the time, I want peace. I just want peace. I just want to be okay. I just want peace. I just want peace. And I remember saying these exact same things while I was creating drama for myself. And so
Yeah.
like and found myself in peace, and then found my way back to like, or which could have been, you know, resided in a little bit more, but I went out and found some more chaos.
Yeah.
And so, Eckhart talks about that too. I told you I'll probably talk about Eckhart. Like he said,
It's all good.
but
I love that guy.
he helped me so much with a lot of stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm forever grateful for that guy. And he said if peace is what you wanted, you would choose peace, And then he goes on to say like people say they want peace, but like if you look closely, they don't because their pain. They say they want to rid their pain, but like if you look closely, they don't because their pain is so intertwined with their identities and how they see
Mm,
themselves. So to give up the pain would mean to give up the identity, part of the identity, and like
mm.
the egoic mind, the identification mind doesn't like that. So I mean, I see this on smaller scales a lot when I do sessions and I talk to people, and if they actually take a couple of days and do just a thought, and they don't buy into shit, then I'll talk to them again and they'll say like, no, I feel really good, but I feel like I should be worried about something. And it's like I feel like I should be thinking more about something, but I'm okay. And I'm like, guys, this is what you've been doing anyway.
Mm.
So like the healing part is to me is just another identity of you're saying that you need to be healed. You're still identified with the trauma, saying that like that, and but now it's more of a favorable identity with the trauma.
It's spiritual.
Yeah,
It's
exactly,
spiritual.
exactly. Yeah, like, and you got to watch out for identities, man. Like, it's because identity comes with fear of loss. It comes with its own "I'm right, you're wrong." It comes with a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
And so, like, nonetheless, like, yeah, if you're saying I need healed, I mean, I've seen things that's like, oh, when you are, we've all been through trauma, but don't you gotta be accountable and start your healing journey, not be a victim. And it's like, again, still a trauma identity, but now it's saying I'm a better trauma identity because I'm actually working on myself,
Exactly.
and it's still going to perpetuate itself. So the idea is like, I think that's why Neville says things like true forgiveness is forgetfulness.
Mm.
When you look at, I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, being funny, but all the time I spent trying to change beliefs, like just all the time I spent, and I remember thinking in the Bible, like Jesus, like after everything he said, he never said, affirm for before you enter the kingdom, affirm for 28 days. Like he never said like before you enter the kingdom, affirm that you have. He never said before you enter the kingdom. Like, but he did make one pretty much one request. It's like before you enter the or requirement. He said before you enter the kingdom, forgive.
Mm.
And so I think that like whether that be self, which mainly self, but like or whatever else that we're trying to do, like if we forgive that, when you think about it, a lot of people don't want to forgive because then they can't be who they are anymore.
Mm.
Like they can't be. The mind will make up stuff like, oh, but if I forgive that person, that means they got away with it, and it's like, or if I forgive that person, then I can't really be upset no more. I don't get to do it, and this is a lot of this is unconscious. It's not really a conscious way of
For
going.
sure.
So it's like but it's also insane. So like, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, I'm not calling you insane. I'm saying what we're doing here is insane. Like the whole thing is insane, but you are not, right? But like, I get it. So it's so I think that the healing thing is mainly just realizing, okay, like, why do I not want to give up my trauma? Like a second ago, you were talking about taking out the trash, right? That'll get us, especially, actually anybody. But like when you're in an upset mood and you're starting to get triggered, like you were talking about, then the trash becomes a problem. Whoever put this there, it becomes a problem. Like who didn't do this is a problem. And really, if you were in a different state, like you'd be whistling taking out the trash.
Yep.
Like so,
Yep.
it's never the thing. It's like it's always just us. So, but like in the Letting Go book, Dr. David Hawkins, he says like we get small payoffs. We get small payoffs for being upset. We get small payoffs while making somebody wrong or being mad at somebody, and that's where like awareness really comes into play. About like, okay, well, this is kind of insane. Like I see that I'm doing this stuff. Like you said, the stored energy, the emotion in the body. Okay, I can see this is happening. And once you bring awareness to it, you actually have choice at that point. Until then, you don't.
Yep.
You don't have as much choice as you think that you do, right?
Yep.
So but until then, like you got the awareness on. You say, okay, this is happening. I'm getting wild thoughts, feeling this emotion. Okay, I've done this before and still chose to be an asshole. Like like it's still been like, no, that they need to find this out, and it's because you get those small payoffs like by being upset. So it's more so about like, are you willing to give up these payoffs? Because if you're willing to give up the payoffs, you can give up all the stuff that makes you a victim. It makes you yeah, you get what I'm saying. But like the healing thing is more so just saying that you're healed. but again, same thing with anything, but letting go of all the reasons why you're not. Like that's it. Like if you can just let go of the reasons why you're traumatized and it's hard to heal. If you can do that, you're healed. Because it's not happening now.
So
and I'm not
true.
saying these things weren't challenging for people, but I am saying that like right now it's not happening except for up here.
So true.
So
So
yeah.
true. And that's why I'm really, really a big fan of the flow, is because the flow is not the personality, is the absence of the personality, which
Yeah.
means that it doesn't have a past or future. It has a now, which, by the way, you're deeply intergrained with, and you appear to be one with everything. And we were talking about this before the call. I found that flow, not only is this the state of the wish fulfilled that I was looking for and working for and all these other things, because, and just to show everybody that's watching experientially, the times that you manifested things very effortlessly, you may have thought, well, that desire would be nice, or this would be cool to show up this way, or whatever it was. And then you went back into enjoying your life. Then all of a sudden it appeared in your life. Did you work for this? Did you strive? Did you affirm for 24 hours? You did nothing. You simply acknowledged, hey, this would be nice. And you went into flow. And then this appeared. And this is how many of my manifestations happened that I love was very simple. And the ones I noticed that I didn't create the way that I wanted to create it was all the ones that I forced. I was controlling. I was worried about. I was looking for proof and validation. I was needing to happen. These are the ones that didn't happen. Well, here's the funny thing is then I'm doing the techniques. I'm affirming, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. But as Neville said, I was doing it from the consciousness of not having it. So what I was doing didn't matter because I was still doing it from the consciousness of lack of this thing. And so what I find that my practice is very, very easily now is I make flow an absolute priority. The first thing I do in the morning is I sit there in silence for 5 or 10 minutes until I can feel my mind expand. And I feel that my body, I'm very in touch with my body. I can feel the energy in it, which we'll talk about this a different time. But you can feel the energy field of the body, which means that you're extremely present. And there's no discomfort, non-acceptance, any of these things within me. I'll go on with my day. And then let's say that I have a flow breaker where something comes up where I don't know. It could be that my wife's at work. I didn't get a text for 3 hours, and all of a sudden my mind goes, she didn't text, and this story starts popping up. It's a flow breaker. Well, what is it that I'm actually wanting in that moment? I'm wanting to feel as though I'm loved, or I'm wanting to feel as though things are okay. Whatever it is, I'm safe. Everything's okay. Okay. So the moment that I have the desire, I simply thank you that I have it, Father, and I go, and I'm right back in flow. And then my wife will text me 2 minutes later with the text, I love you so much. I've been busy today, et cetera, et cetera. That's literally how manifestation is just such a simple process. And this is how you've always done it. You're just getting rid of the continuous force and the continuous do things all day and et cetera. Is that similar to how you manifest nowadays?
Yeah, yeah. Like obviously the teachings that I teach and stuff, I try to make them kind of all in the same area because it's all the same stuff. But like it's mainly, dude, like it was the same way that I live my life, but it's mainly 95% of it is just giving up thought, unnecessary thought. Like I mean, you can use your mind, dude, like as you should. But if you're identified with it, you don't, like Echo says, you don't use it. It uses you. So
Yeah.
like, and again, you do not have as much choice as you think you do. And that's exactly why when you're trying to change this identity to another identity, like it's extremely challenging. So to really go back to the root and start doing that, just identify with mind, it's going to be so much like it's just an easier process, and it's going to bring you in touch with this wholeness, this stillness within, which the things that you want are a natural byproduct of this kind of way of being. And that's all you're doing. Because like I love how you said that he said you're from the consciousness of not having it. Because you're trying to force something, not having it. You're affirming to get. You're affirming to get, like things like that. So when you actually start being, more solid, more grounded, focused on on your day, living your life, not trying to manifest, so much like that, then that's an actual state of somebody who's in a relationship, like a healthy one. That's the actual state of somebody who's like got some finances together. That's the actual state of all the things that you think that you want.
So true. Freedom of the mind. You're not thinking about things because when I can think of when I used to struggle financially, what would be on my mind was money all the time, but it was money leaving my account, not having enough of it, thinking how I could get
Yeah,
it.
it was
And,
money on
and
your mind. I get that. Yeah.
and I would affirm and I would visualize and I would do these things. And maybe I'd make a little bit of money, but then from that identity I was operating from, it would go out of my life. An unexpected bill would come up. Something would happen. There'd be this that would happen or that would happen. I could even get for the identity that I was at that time, a crazy amount of money. But then some crazy circumstance that would happen would then take all of it back. So I go right back to the identities. This is how much money I make. And it was such an interesting thing how it was like no matter what happened, there was a set baseline. It was like comfortable with a certain amount of money. It would never go below that. And if it ever went above it, it would bring it right back down every single time. There would be circumstances that reflected this. And it's crazy now because it's like, I don't really ever think about money, and money flows abundantly. Like everything's just happening so wonderfully for me. And the funny thing is, I don't think about it ever. And so it goes back to that whole thing that the only reason why I have a lack of money is because I'm thinking of a lack of money. The only reason why I don't have money is because I'm thinking of I need money. If I were to release that thought, money would flow. Like that's the whole thing I think that's so beautiful behind this is that by default, We are abundant. We're loved. Harmony flows through us. Peace flows through us. We are the creator of this our experience, and all the beauty around here is for us to just experience and love and see the divinity in it. And yet we cause these heartbreaking things through unconsciousness and identified to things. And then you have the group consciousness talking about how, you should live life or have a 9 to 5. And there's all these other group consciousness things that we take in that then make assumptions about how life is for us. And when we can really just free ourselves and be as we are now, one of my favorite books, by the way, is Acre of Diamonds. I don't know if you read that book or not,
Yeah.
but it's the idea behind it is that everybody has the $1 billion idea within them and they're looking outside for this thing. And it's like when you get in flow, you literally have this creative intelligence that, you were talking about with one of your videos before. You had this idea, you were thinking, oh, I should go in a particular way. And then all of a sudden you got this idea while in flow that was like, oh no, this way. Such a simple thing. And up until that point, there may have been a lot of thinking and back and forth and action and didn't harvest much outcome. You have this one little thought, take action on it. And it ended up bringing a very big harvest that was mutually beneficial for everybody involved. And it's like, that's the simplicity of being in that flow, is that you just get these such creative ideas and they're so profound
Yes.
and powerful.
Yes. And the scary part about it is that giving up control. Right. That's the only hiccup.
Mm,
Is see, people are gonna get what it is that they want. That's not really a thing. You know what I mean? Like to not, but it's when you how do I say when you start to get out of mind and you start to get more in flow like that, you're it happens in the coolest ways. And not only does it happen in the coolest ways, other things that happen that are cool that you didn't even know that you really liked like that. And open up, different opportunities, and people say things that are different to you that you're like, oh wow, I never even, that's cool. And it's all from giving up this control, like, because
mm,
really you're God. You're not, the mind wants control. God just wants to live and be free. God's not worried about a motherfucking thing. But the mind is.
mm.
And it's mainly, it's going to, it's going to try to control every situation. So then we read books like Power Now, and I'm like, no, 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 I don't want that. I don't want to give
Yeah,
up. Yeah,
so
it's kind of
true.
like my issue with Law of Attraction. Like I spoke in the beginning about being bummed out, but I was bummed out because I was like, no, I just can't get this happy. They're telling me to be. I just can't get this happy. I was like, I'm fairly okay, like happy,
All the
but
time.
yeah. And I was like, I can't do this. And so of course later on I found Law of Assumption that was pretty cool. But like the longer I go on and the more I kind of get out of the mind stuff, like the teachings of the law of attraction are beautiful, right? They're just not mandatory. Yeah, and
For sure.
but it is an actual easier way to live. Like, but you have to get yourselves out of these identities to be able to do these things.
For sure. For sure. And the funny thing is, I experience bliss all the time. Like we were talking about this the other day, and I talk about this often because I experience it often. I have so much bliss and love and joy doing this the same way that I do when I'm sitting on my bed, the same way that I do when I'm outside walking, the same way that I do when I'm drinking water. And that's the most beautiful thing about it too, because then it gets rid of this need. You talked about a beautiful thing is that even when I manifested my wife the first time, it was from this place of I need her because she gives me something. And whenever I need something, the opposite then happens. I fear it leaving. And that's what kept coming up in mind the second time that I need, well, in between needing to manifest her second time, I had the fear of I need her. I hope I never lose this. I hope I never. And it was those very same thoughts that then created the illusion of us not being in a loving relationship now. And I need to manifest her back a second time. So it's like, that's the most beautiful thing behind this is that you realize that nothing outside of you gives you anything. It's just experiences that you enjoy and you choose and you love and you prefer. I prefer cold weather over warm weather, but when I have warm weather, I don't make a huge deal out of it. It's just simply
It
the way that
is.
it is.
Yeah.
And so we still have preferences, but the thing is, the funny thing is once we get rid of these needs and these things that we have to have, well, all of a sudden, then all these things just flow, and they're just as enjoyable as you going for a walk. These things that used to be crazy to the old identity or things you'd strive for years flow to you in moments or days or weeks, and it's a wonderful thing, but it's not really any more wonderful than when you go for a walk or when you go and hang out with your kids or you go and hang out with everything is just lovely. And I catch myself feeling love, peace, bliss often. contentment, love in my heart. It's just a byproduct of being in flow. So it's like I don't strive or do anything to reach it. And the less that I do, the more that I feel this love because the mind's absent. It was always there underneath the mind chatter. You, you feel like the same thing happened for you too?
Almost definitely because the walk's beautiful,
Yeah.
right? The water tastes good, but like it you can't see that when your mind's trying to get something.
Mm,
Like that's you know what I'm saying? Like that's all it is. Like
yeah.
because that's what you're doing anyway. Like I tell people all the time, like, listen, what when you're worrying in the kitchen and you're trying to manifest your firm to get this person in the kitchen, all you're doing anyway is making your sandwich.
Mm,
And to making the sandwich can actually be a pleasant experience. Like with no means to an end to just make your sandwich. But you'll never know that as long as you're trying to get something to be happy and some perceived salvation in the future. Like
so true.
so when you bring it, get out of the mind, and you actually and you just walk, yeah, it's gonna be a nice walk. Like it's fucking beautiful around here. Like no matter where you're at.
Yeah.
Like and yeah, it's amazing. But it's the like you said, man, it's the mind chat. And if you eliminate most of that, you actually can experience a pretty cool life.
Dude, it's crazy. And then you just get more and more and more to be appreciative for too, is like what I experienced. I found that the biggest hang up for me, I was talking about this with a buddy for a while, is that one, my identity was, well, I'm this guy, part of why I got tattoos was, well, I'm a tough guy. This is part of the appearance. And the whole reason why I did that is because I identified as someone who was hurt often when I was young. And so this was an attempt for the ego to go, oh no, this will keep people away. And of course, it kept people away because there's shadows in my reality, and that was my assumption. But it, I had a hard time of being in flow because I thought, well, I'm going to be boring as shit. I love Ekhart Tolle, but sometimes I listen and I'm like, this guy doesn't seem very exciting to me. He doesn't seem like he's egoed out or like any of this stuff. Like,
I know, dude, I get that. Yeah.
especially at first, I wanted to cut my wrist watching him. But the spiritual in depth that he shares, I'm like, dude, he's so profound. And
It's
thank
amazing.
goodness that I kept watching it because he is actually, after my mind stopped judging him so much, I did find, he's a wonderful human being. He expressed himself so wonderfully. But that stopped me for so long from going to flow. I thought I was going to be boring. I thought I was going to be dull. And I pictured myself being like Ekhart Tolle, people seeing me like Ekhart Tolle, and I had this image of myself to uphold. And then the second thing was, and this is so funny, I wasn't going to get what I wanted. You talked about this too. The thing I found, the very funny thing I found, is that what actually kept me from getting what I wanted was that thought. So
Exactly.
as we were talking about at the beginning of the call, if I don't have something in consciousness, I can't experience it. I had that in consciousness. If I don't show up this way, I won't get what I want. Or if I do become that way, I won't get what I want. But that was the thought that was keeping me from getting away from what I wanted. What was your sticking point for like reaching in enlightenment or flow continuously?
Oh, you
Bradley,
froze.
yeah, yeah. We're back. We're back.
We're back. But yeah, but I get that too, man. I was scared too. Like I remember thinking that exact same. I don't know what the last part you said, but like I'm just like commenting on what the last thing I heard was that like I'm with you. Dude. I was scared of not having a personality of living like that, right? And later on you find out that that's what you really wanted anyway, so live like that, right? But nonetheless, you just think your happiness is in somebody's pocket, but
Yeah.
but nonetheless like um I see it here. I remember drinking and having like I drank for a long time and I had to give it up. And one of the thoughts that I had was I was like, man, am I ever gonna have fun again? And then I got another thought that was like, I haven't had fun in 5 years.
Mm,
Like like nothing about this has been fun. Like
mm,
so it's the same thing with when I was trying to try to just identify my mind and I read power now. I was like, whoa, am I gonna be happy just with nothing? Like, and it was
mm.
like, wait, when are you happy with it? You've had things before and still ain't been happy. So like, it just was again another illusion of being scared, basically being scared, scared of spirituality, scared of not having it, scared of fucking drinking, scared of not drinking. It just kept going and going and going. Scared of being in a relationship, scared when I was in one, scared of not being in one. Like it just never stopped. But I was like you, my brother. I was my outside was aggressive. Like I like how you use the word tough guy. My grandpa used to say that stuff, and I always wanted to be like him. And there was a lot of things that were going on that I was like, all right, I'm going to be outwardly aggressive. And I was just scared. Like nothing about me was like, tough in that sense. Like I was maybe externally in a lot of ways, but like
Yeah.
not not like internally like that. And now I'm the complete opposite. Uh, Externally, I don't want no problems, right? But internally, I'm solid.
Dude, I relate to that so much. Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm just like literally, and the funny thing is that it's just a realization what it always was. I just want to love and acceptance and to appreciate and to expand and to experience. And, that's what was underneath all that stuff. But it's so hard as you talked about, like when we create an identity for ourselves, it's very, very hard to break free from it. It's like this little paradigm or this shell, and we can only see ourselves behaving in this particular way. And I find that really just techniques and all these different things. You may like I was able to sometimes expand this personality or this identity a little bit, but I found what ultimately happened is I would just fit right back in that shell. And another thing that I found that was so interesting is that the personality just finds different ways to make it evolves. So if I let go of something, well then all of a sudden now it'll, like you talked about, with healing. It'll start becoming a spiritual healer. Now all of a sudden I'm a spiritual healer and I'm healing because I'm spiritual. Now I just found another identity that's hidden at first. I don't realize what just happened. It just molded
Yeah.
now to where there was another self concept or another mind identity that to me was hidden underneath this spirituality.
Mm.
And so that's the things that kind of like I find so challenging is that even as I become more and more conscious, there's more and more creative ways and more subtle ways that it'll come in and try to create an identity out of it of some sort. Like with teacher, people, you're a teacher and such, and then oh, I am a teacher, and I'm like, it's another spiritual self identity that was created.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just,
Yeah. When people reach out and they say, how do I get from one identity to another?" I say, man, I was like, you can do that, but it's not ideal. Like you want to be wary of the identity in general. So like, yeah, but you can just identify with that, the kind of the ones that you're in. But after that, seek experience. You know, um, kind of without attachment, really. And attachment uh, is just a byproduct of you trying to find yourself in something, right?
mm,
And so like when I make YouTube videos, like I don't really consider myself a YouTuber. I just make videos and I put them on. And
mm,
like, because if I create my identity out of being a YouTuber, what am I gonna do when they take it down? I'm fucked at that point. It's part of who I
mm,
am, right? So like, you see this in uh, like mothers, like the empty nest syndrome. They've been a mother, and then their kids are old and like they don't know what to do. They're like, what the fuck? Like you see, and then the mind will try to find an identity quick.
yeah.
Happens after people retire. It happens after like they see themselves a certain way for a long time. They'll find a certain religion. They'll get into that hard politics even. Something they'll find it to belong,
Mm,
find a new home, and it's all one big illusion anyway.
mm,
So like the idea I think is to be cautious of that because it does sneak in the back door and it seems really real and it's things that you like and it's just who you are now. And but again it's very separate from, and so it's ideal to see that something you want to experience and then just experience it. And that actually helps you appreciate it too, because until then like there's really no appreciation when there's need. There was a little bit like as far as like, oh, this is great, I'm so happy that I have this, but
it's a
it's
high.
mine. Hey, but it's mine. Again, it's a whole different appreciation than just like, wow, one day this is gonna go, just like everything, right?
Yep.
And so yeah, it's a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
But I love making the YouTube videos, and one day it'll be something else. But they'll go on to different things. But yeah,
Yeah.
but to build a sense of self off of something that's not you,
Yeah. Yeah.
very shaky.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's awesome. I think, a really, really good topic to talk about would be SP, because a lot of people, as we were talking about before the call, a lot of people will enter this whole entire uh, manifestation and law of assumption thing as a result of SPs. And so, a lot of videos that I made and I'm going to transfer out of it mostly, but we'll still be making it from time to time. the biggest thing that I see continuously, and I'm just curious on like what your answer would be if it's similar to mine, is if somebody is often I'll get, hey, I'm affirming all day long, hey, I'm doing this all day long, hey, I'm doing this all day long, and I'm not seeing movement, or they'll say they seen opposition or they seen this happen. What would your advice be to this person that's having these experiences? Because it's very common. I see this on Facebook, Reddit, my videos. I'm sure it's on your videos. I'm sure it's
You mean if they're affirming and they're seeing opposite stuff?
yeah, like they're seeing opposite, but they're doing all this work. They're doing all this affirming and visualizing, and they're on a schedule, and there's this is in the center of their consciousness continuously. What advice would you give them to, both improve their quality of life and manifest it? Which, funny enough, it's one and the same. But
One of the yeah, I was trying to say that's but that's funny. Man, I try to start everyone off with just like taking a few days with just a thought. Like I know people book sessions sometimes, like and they're overwhelmed, and I get it. I do. I try not to ever forget that. I mean, I forget it in my own life, but like I try to
yeah,
I remember like how that was, and it is extremely unfortunate. And it feels like the world's against you. It feels like no one, but like I get it, but I say like, if you guys can just trust me, like if you can just trust me, I'm like, hey, you found your way talking to me for for some kind of reason. Like there's something in me that's in you. I know this. Trust me on this. Spend a couple of days. Don't try to manifest anything. Just really watch the insanity of all these thoughts. Like these are, and when you get them, just a thought, just a thought. Like I know the mind wants to think about it. It's a lot of momentum. I know the mind wants to like, no, you don't understand. Person said this, all this. Like, please, I got to get them now so I feel safe. And it's like, dude, but if they could trust me and just not buying a thought for a few days, they're going to stabilize. And most importantly, like what they're going to show themselves is they don't have to buy in a thought.
Mm.
Like I think a good teacher or someone who's on really getting it out there, the best way to really help, I think, is to try to like get them to come to the realization on their own. And because like that's the only way we really buy it. Like it's the only way. Like like I read The Power of Now. To me, it's the greatest book ever. And I remember reading it in this state, being like, I get it, dude. Like that makes sense. Everything you say, I get it. But no, like so it wasn't like I just read it and took on enlightenment. It wasn't a thing. So it doesn't matter if someone has a session with me or Eckhart Tolle, dude, or you or anyone. It doesn't really matter. Like
yeah,
the idea is to like get them to do some things that they'll see this on their own. Because when you're telling somebody, hey, like don't believe your thoughts, you're like, yeah, dude, that's easy for you to say. You seem
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
You got your person, and it's like all this stuff. And it's like, dude, so if you're gonna, hey, just start there. I think that's really good. Then when they're a little bit more stable, just depending on, I kind of do it just depending, but like, but that then you can, well, you're gonna have some realizations, man. Like when you're seeing the thought and not identifying with it anymore, that's a whole different ballgame than identifying with this thought. That's a whole different state of being. That's an entirely different reality at that point.
Yep.
So because you're being entirely different, so like to just observe it and be like, oh, that's just a thought, and you're actually going to start to see the shit that you've been thinking without latching back onto, or as you said, let it take its roots in you, kind of thing. Like you'll be able to see it, and you'll have the space, and you'll finally be able to see, okay, this is what I am. That's who I've been being, and all that out there that like was causing all this ruckus, like that makes perfect sense now.
Mm.
Because there's something in me that's buying into this law of assumption stuff, and they're saying that I created all this stuff in my state of being and my identity and my thoughts. And now that you're not buying into this identity and state of being and thoughts anymore, and you're just looking at it, it's all going to make sense. And then from there you can say, okay, listen, whoa, and then you actually have some compassion in your heart for like the people that you created. And you're like, wow, like I was looking at them like shit. And then at that point you can be like, okay, I want to have a different experience. But I do think that people come to the realizations on their own when they first started getting out of thought. Like Ekhart Tolle, I learned that from Ekhart. He's like a good teacher, like points at the truth,
Mm.
just shows you in the direction. Because again, like if someone's telling you that if someone's telling you that you're God, including myself, like as far as like what that means to be God, then don't even listen to that. because like I mean, fundamentally we know that we are connected, we are all this God consciousness, but like as far as like the when you start to witness that and feel that, I'm sure you understand it can't be explained. The mind can't tell you, like it can just tell you, hey, like this is what I think this whole thing is, and but even then it loses its grip. So the idea is to get people to realize that within themselves, and because when they start getting in touch with that, they're not going to be scared. Like they're not like it's going to make sense where you can actually take someone from, I guess, an SP journey from pedestal to preference, from like, oh, I want to experience this person, I like this person, and now it's gonna be better because I'm gonna look at them different because namaste, the God me recognize the God in this person now.
Yeah.
But until then, it's like get you act this way, this way, this way, and you're too concerned about what they're doing or not doing, and all these little meetings like we talked about, and it's just it just keeps creating the same stuff from this identity.
Mm.
So to get out of that first and foremost, you'll come to realizations all on your own. Things will shape all around you that are way different than you've ever seen before, and it's still not going to matter too much because you'll realize, oh, that's just it's a more favorable reflection, but reflection nonetheless. Like it was all you anyway.
That's
I don't know if that
exactly
answers the
correct.
question, man. I always try to bring it back to like get out of mind.
Yeah. I love that, dude. That's honestly, that's a wonderful way of putting it. I've always just intuitively told people to do meditations, whether it's Dr. Job's meditation or to do read Power for Now. It's like almost like a prerequisite for things I tell people to do because it's like, the nice thing is that Eckhart is so present. The very act of reading his book will bring you more present. And so
Yeah.
then they can experientially experience what it is that I'm saying with thoughts. And so it's no longer a concept in your mind. Now it's an experience that you have within your being. It's completely different. A thought is not the truth, an experience is. And so until you have the experience, it's just simply a concept in a mind that you can take any whatever way, but an experience is definite. And so once they can have that experience, well then now they'll never forget the fact that they in for a moment became the absence of their thoughts. And from there, you're just never the same. I remember that happening when I read his book too. It's been about 16 years now since I did it, and it took me quite a while. And I was very close. I could have been at the place of what I would consider enlightenment for a while, but I didn't because I was hung up on the concept that I was going to be boring and that I wouldn't get what I wanted. Those were like the last little two strings that held me from making flow or party in my life continuously. And but once I broke those, well, now it's most often I stay in that state. I'll have things come up, flow breakers and stuff from time to time. I'm not perfect at it, but I don't stay there for long periods of times and stuff. But like that's what I'll do for people is I have them read Eckhart Tolle or meditation and then have them practice throughout their day of being deeply integrated with whatever it is they're doing in the moment. So then it's this, and it's funny because that's my exact same thought patterns. Is that you don't my way is not the best way. The way that you have within you is the best way. But you have to be able to reach that place of presence so that who you truly are, that intelligence, that endless capability, that endless beauty can express itself. And it's beyond the mind. And so it's like that's the thing is first, hey, look over here, get a little glimpse of this beauty where you release you're not the personality anymore, you're not the mind, and then you notice, ah, this feels very nice. It's very relaxing. I feel love. I can appreciate my room. There's not a layer of things over everything. I can see the aliveness and everything. And then maybe the mind comes back in and does its thing. But then you remember though that truth that you just experienced. And then from there it's like, how do I get back to that experience all the time? How do I do that on command? And then, I found for me, I spent a little bit of time where I'm in it. And then the mind activity was very strong. It would pull me like a current. I remember I used to say I had what was it? Disassociation because my I identified with my pain body being so strong that I would get pulled. I would be aware, but then there would be this very strong energy and just thought patterns that were happening that would pull me unconscious, and there was nothing I could do at that time, and it would cause me such immense pain. And then when that would pass, sometimes after a couple of days to a week, it was very painful. I would go back to being present again, and I would practice being present more and more and more. And it's funny, just like Ekhart Tolle said, I was able to transmute all of that into consciousness. And so it's why I think that I'm able to maintain so much consciousness now is because of all that pain and that energy that I had before now transmuted into consciousness. But it just happened over time of just making being conscious a priority. Reading Ekhart Tolle, I listen to Ekhart Tolle. I used to listen to him on my lunch breaks and have one of his videos, and he would say one of his dry jokes that is just so
Yeah.
funny because it's coming from him. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's the key of manifestation too. It's like it's a foundation I think that everybody should know because it just makes your quality of life better. It makes manifestations better. You can manifest anything really a lot easier, a lot more flow based. So
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. I get that, man. And I also I like the fact that um like when he talks about manifesting, like, 'cause, of course, people, there's going to be somebody asking that question. Yeah, they're like, hey, what about this? Like, I understand because everyone's us. I understand, dude. Like, mine's crazy. I get it. But like, how about manifesting it? And like, I love how he breaks it down, man. He's just like, guys, uh, it can be summed up to Mark 11:24 in the Bible, man. Like, when you pray, believe you have received it and it shall be yours.
mm,
He kept it real simple. Like in the book, he says like your outside's a manifestation of your inner state. But we all talk about this, but like he keeps it real simple when it comes to manifesting.
mm,
He's more like because I like the journey of self mastery better than I was just talking about this on the membership side of my channel. I was like, man, I made a video today, and I was like, I'm more into the. That's why I started the channel was for to document self mastery, and then oddly enough, the more you quote unquote self master, like the outside is reflected. If you can take care of the inside, the outside will take care of itself. And so it's that's the whole. To me, I like that idea better. I like how Eckert does that too. Like, and all again back to the quote at the beginning that you said. The only thing stopping this is the refusal to believe it. The thoughts. Like, so you work on that, like letting those things go. Worrying about your inner state, not polluting it, being caring about self mastery and not getting upset at the trash can. Like things like that we're talking about. Those are the things. Those are the things that are going to change your outside the fastest.
it's so true. So
And,
true.
and and people are like, how long does it take? I'm like, dude, I was talking with somebody that I'm working with, and she's doing a 7-day mental diet, by Emmett Fox. You were talking about this, and like when you think about it, 7 days is not a long time. And he actually says like things start to break down after like day 3 if you're actually on top of it. Like that's how fast this whole thing is.
Yeah.
It's not really but again, you're on top of thought, so it's very simple. But like back in the day when I was in AA, and they would say, it's a simple program for complicated people.
Yeah.
I look at like the law and live it on purpose like that the same way. It's real simple. All simple. Mine's
Yeah.
complicated. Identity's complicated. That's it.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I remember that in A. I was in there for 10 years too. We talked about it before, and I always like that saying, KISS, keep it simple,
Even
stupid.
simple.
And
Maybe that's where I got it from.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
like that. I like that so much, and it was such an awesome program. I think why it works so good is just because it was like trust God, clean house, help others. Well, what is that other than you're not thinking of your problems?
No, that's
which
all it is.
which then appeared as you not having any problems. How many times did you hear people that were following this simple principle where they would go and help others, letting go of their problems by trusting God, and then they'd have these miracles happen to them all of a sudden, and it's like they did nothing. And so it's the exact same thing with manifestation, right? It's like we pray, like you have the desire to be with your person. This is beautiful. This is who you choose. That's lovely. That's to me the desire is there because the Father wants to experience it through you. That's why you have the desire. It's a promise. It's a promise that the Father wants to express this manifestation through you. So in that moment, simply acknowledge that you have it because where is creation happen? The kingdom of heaven is within you. And so it is just for me, it's a simple acknowledgement. Thank you, Father, that I have this now. Or maybe I'll catch the mood. What would the feeling be like if I had this? I don't do that too much anymore, but I used to do that as a permission to allow me to feel as though I have it. And that would be it. And then I'd go on with my day and I'd flow. And if it came up again where the desire was there, I would remind myself that I already had this within me now. And that was it. And then I'd do it again. And really, when I break down at the end of the times where I manifested my wife, That's all I did. There was way less thoughts. There was way more flow. There was less thinking of the problems. There was less thinking of the old story. Really, ultimately, I let go the problems that I felt like I was trying to solve because the problems only existed in my mind. So the moment that I
Exactly.
let them go, there were no problems, and I was left with what I prayed for, a loving relationship with my wife. And it just flowed. And so it's just such a simple process. And no, I'm not going to take this way. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't have emotions. I would be lying to you. I did have emotions, and I did have lots of stuff come up, and I did have many times of overthinking and pain, and I cried a few times. I had some breakdowns. It did happen on that journey. But what I'm saying is that ultimately now understanding, because I think a lot of the problem I had, I didn't know what the hell I was doing the first time I was manifesting my wife. I didn't know what thoughts would cause me to create what I feared. I didn't know what thoughts would cause what I loved. I didn't know how this worked or that worked. There's lots of confusion. What technique to do? Should I do this technique or that technique? That was a lot of the problem for me. So it was like that's what took time, was the confusion and the misunderstanding and thinking there was separation. But now looking back, I can tell you what happened is that I let go of the problem in consciousness that I was creating by thinking that there was a problem, by being aware of the old story, because the very act of me being aware of the old story and trying to fix it implied that there was a problem. And so the only way that I could do it, and this happened gradually through me doing techniques and such, but I pushed those things out of consciousness. And all I was conscious of was my loving relationship with my wife. So then naturally, it just appeared. And,
Exactly.
and I did very little, right? And like, it's such an interesting thing because you can recall the time where it wasn't like that. Just say a week or two ago, you can remember doing, they weren't in your simulation that you were experiencing. And then all of a sudden they're here and you're like, well, this is cool. I remember when it wasn't this way. But it never seems like a crazy thing. It's like, yeah, I enjoy this, I appreciate it, but it never is like, oh, thank God I did it. Yes, I'm going to celebrate and pop some champagne. Like no one's ever felt like that because they're in the state of already being in a loving relationship. So when it happens, it's just very, this is wonderful.
Exactly. Yo, and I wanted to say thank you too, man, for sharing that. Also, thank you for making that statement about the AA, how they help. Like, it's back then. I remember thinking about that too a long time ago. I was like, man, they were. That was the program, was to trust God, clean house, to help others, right? And if you would have told people that they had to affirm,
Oh,
they would have
imagine.
got drunk.
Yeah.
Like I'm not kidding, dude. Like, and the act of like it's exhausting. You'd be like, wait, I got to affirm how many times the fuck stay sober, dude? Like the like I would have been drunk after a couple of days. Like, um, for sure. But like the act of like being selfless and going out and helping somebody else instead of being in your pity trying to manifest and thinking that, oh my God, you understand, like I need all this stuff, like setting in your bag, being victim, right? And instead of doing that, you go out and actually help somebody, be there for somebody else, right? Because how would you be able to be there for somebody else if you didn't have that in you already? How
Yeah.
would you be able to love and be and care for somebody if it didn't exist in you? If you didn't have it in you already, you can't give somebody
Yeah.
$20 and you got $20.
Yeah.
And so you're going from needing help to being of help, and then you're trusting this process because like why not, right? You're cleaning house. You're letting go of these things that you once thought were problems, and you're pretty much giving it up. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's an absolute recipe for a different life.
Yep.
And that's exactly, and they don't know anything about affirming,
Nope.
and then you'll hear these people like swear to it, like, hey, listen, like my life changed, and you can see it,
Yep.
like you can see it.
Yep.
And they don't know a damn thing about, well, I'm sure some people do, but you know what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
this whole thing. So like it shows you right there, it's not like it's just about awareness. Where you place your awareness, like just like you said, it was so beautifully said. That was amazing. Thanks for sharing that. But like it's that the thing is simple. Mine's not. And for sure, if there was techniques in AA, it would not be what it is.
Imagine. That's
Yeah,
that's how I said. I was like, it's so smart because that's the issue that we have. A lot of times in people come into manifesting and then they start because they know they're the conscious creator. It's like look at all the chaos that it caused them and the problems it caused them. I know for me, it caused me a lot of problems. In AA, it was so nice because they gave you some simple principles that aligned you with this, but you had no idea why.
exactly.
So you weren't able to create a concept out of it. You weren't be able to let me figure this out. Let me find the perfect technique. Let me do this. Am I doing this right? It just creates so much, as I call it for lack of a better word, mindfuckery. This is like I'm going to put this on a t-shirt because there's like an endless number of this in so many different aspects in so many different ways that it's like this is what causes the problems is this mind screwiness that we're doing within ourselves continuously. That is what causes the problems in every aspect of our life. And the funny thing is they'll kind of just manifest in different forms, confusion in different forms, separation in different forms, illusions in different forms. And you'll find some people from, well, it's because of the location of where my SP is at on the map. Or very common one I hear is, well, for my nationality that I'm in, my parents don't agree with this person, so it can't happen because of this. Or um, this circumstance was way too big, or I did this to them. It's so bad. I can't forgive myself. There's this mind, that people are creating that is the very reason why they can't experience that relationship is because of this thing that they keep telling. It's been this long. It's been too long. It's been this. And the thing I always tell them, it's like, well, if you look back at what you've been doing within yourself, have you not been conscious of the story being in between you and your loving relationship for this amount of time? And this isn't to shame you. This isn't to condemn you. This is to help you realize because, like, I think what we'll do is I've been doing this for a year and I can't do this. Well, we need to bring some truth in there. You've been thinking about it for a couple of years. You've been thinking of how there's this issue for a couple of years, but you haven't been thinking that you're in a loving relationship for a couple of years. I know this because your outside reality
It's
is
so much.
you.
Yeah. I say that all the time. I'm like, man, like I'm not trying to sound rude, but like you're not doing what you think you've been doing.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
And then then we try to figure it out. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Well, awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And for those of you guys that want to check out Internal Games, his coaching, his YouTube, all of his links and such, they'll be in the description in the video. And so will mine. I'm Joseph Jansen, and I will put my links in the description as well. So then that way you can reach out to us. Also, I believe we're going to do a podcast here shortly. So if you guys are interested in that, please do check it out. And thank you so much for joining me.
Yo,
Dude,
hey,
I loved it,
thank
bro.
you, man. Joseph, thank you. Like I really appreciate you. Like I talked to you last week. Now, hey, super dope. I'm glad my mirror is looking the way that it is, man. For
Mm.
like you're a good man. Thank you for all you shared. I love the
Amen,
way you
bro.
did that. I hope everybody comes and checks you out.
I appreciate that, bro. Same to you. Much love. Appreciate you, my friend.